Hi there, Vibe Gardeners. Welcome to another episode of Vibe Gardening Inform Edition, where we're going to talk about how I went on a family emergency trip in the middle of seed starting and was able to come back to basically everything still alive. With that said, let's go. Alright, so if you guys have been watching my channel, you noticed that my last episode was me talking about how I accidentally tested um, transplanting tomatoes way too early into the outdoors in Zone 6A. I talked about having an emergency family trip that got me a little disoriented with how I did my seed starting. So we're going to go into a little bit of how I was able to get these seed starting behind me going, still going, without anything dying. And a little bit of the interesting dynamic we saw when I wasn't able to be here to make everything perfect. So yeah, that fan right there, I generally don't include that in my clips, but this episode, that's actually the main character of this whole entire episode. So with that said, let's talk about how things worked. So from the previous episode, you would have seen that the tomato back there, they were definitely quite a bit not doing so well because of the drying and everything of the soil. They were actually quite ready and very root bound and ready to be potted up before I left. And I didn't do it because I was, things came up that came to the family emergency I had to go on. And they basically were the ones to really suffer. They still made it. They're still recovering right now as we speak. And the better surviving ones, I took them outdoors already and see if I can keep them alive. I think I can. But also the reason why I believe that they all survived was because I turned this guy right here off. This fan has always been on when I do seed starting or any kind of plant down here. But what happened was I kind of suspected that soil drying and hydration would be the #1 weak point of all these plants while I'm away. So what I did was I turned the fan off to make sure that I will be able to give them the most amount of moistness possible for the longest time, which I know violates the whole air aspect of the plants and their needs. But I knew that would become the biggest critical point of failure. So having this fan off was critical to getting things to be going. So that's how these tomatoes here, though they don't look the best, they're able to survive. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit of a close-up on that. I'll also show you guys the seed starting here, the germination tray, and how that kind of was very interesting in that, as you will see, it's not quite right looking, but I don't think me leaving was actually the problem. So we'll get to that in a minute. So as you can see with the tomato here, it's looking really good now because I finally came back and I potted up. But that's not without damage. As you can see here, with this branch down here, the leaves are quite damaged, and I think this is actually from the drying up. This one was still in the 6-inch blue pot I had them in, which were definitely way too small. And these guys show the most amount of damage, but as you can see here, they made a great rebound as soon as I potted up when I came back. So here's another one. This one, as you can see, stayed in the 6-inch clear pot here. As you can see, it is quite root bound. And as a matter of fact, it definitely has some dead leaves, and I don't think this is going to make it. I'm actually snip it off to give this branch, I don't know, I think I'll just leave it dangling for now and kind of see how it does. Already with the water, as you can see, it's already doing much better. With the firmness. I'm going to definitely pot it up tonight, and I think it's going to be in much better shape going forward. So this is the most interesting pot in that this is actually not really a pot. It's actually my germination tray here. These are the plants that's been germinating. And again, I did the same thing in keeping the humidity dome on to try to reduce air loss for these seedlings. And I had a mixed result. I'm going to go and talk about each one of them and talk a little bit about what's been happening here. All right, so as you can see with African Marigold and Cosmos, they each had 4 of their seeds germinate out of the 6. So it's basically 2/3 germination rate, which is respectable. It's not something that I'm used to. I'm used to seeing better ones coming out of my botanical interest. But the African marigold are actually home saved from my African marigolds from last year. Those generally have a little lower germination rate. Cosmos is the Ferris Moore brand, and I think that's pretty typical. Again, the current flower is actually the snow on mountaintop for the English translation, and it's also having about 50% germination, maybe a little bit higher. Again, they're home saved seeds. I think they're pretty respectable for what it is. And my green beans haven't germinated either, but they're the Furry Moore's uh, seeds from Ali's Sparkling Outlet. So who knows if they've been under extreme conditions or not. Now this is where it gets a little interesting. This group right here, so over here, this is the dwarf marigold. And this is the Furry Moors again. And I think one of the problem here is that it's actually a seed viability problem, because with the way that marigold is planted, these are about a 1/4 inch below the soil. And we see a lot of algae growing on top of the soil, which for more surface level seeds, that might be a problem for oxygen. But the thing is, these things are about 1/4 inch underground, and the oxygen competition shouldn't be a problem. And that's why you see one of them surviving here. That's literally 1 out of 12. That's less than 10% germination. I believe it's actually the seed quality itself. And I would blame Furry Morris on this one. But then if you look at the Johnny Pop-Up, I believe is the name of the flower here that I planted, these are actually tiny seeds. So I did a surface level of sowing using the vermiculite technique I documented in my planting tiny seeds. And as you can see, even though they're surface level, there's still germination on each one of the 6 trays, which means that it's not oxygen competition problem. As if there was any, these seeds would not all of them would have not came up and died from starvation from the algae level. So this right here proves that these dwarf marigolds are likely a seed quality problem from Furry Moors. All right, so this is a thing that I've not shown before. So before we left, we were able to set up this metal storage rack, well, storage wire rack, to basically become our upstairs plant and germination setting, so we can actually get daylight from outside. And as you can see, we got a tower oscillating fan here, helping get air going. Again, just like downstairs, we turned off the oscillating fan, and all the germinated seeds here, none of them died from lack of water. Though this one's definitely, well, the German cameo here. I'll show them one by one, but they all did very well in that none of them, actually only 2 of them needed water right away, including the eggplants here and the bell pepper. None of them were deprived of water. So I think that's a major success of everything happening. So we can see here the Elysium right here. This is the only one that really actually ran out of water, because I think what happened was, if you look at here close on the, actually on this side, you will see how much root is starting to swirl around. It has quite a bit of roots going in each one of them, but I haven't had a chance to thin them. That's actually the other downside. I didn't have a chance to thin them. So this one got quite crowded. The rosemary was absolutely fine. I have not even watered it since last week. Probably have to, because I turned the oscillating fan back on when it came back. Oregano, I discovered a stray chamomile hanging out here. That is my fault for mixing seeds. But these guys are looking quite handy. And the celery here, which I'll get to in a minute, they also look pretty good as well. So as you can see, the celeries are doing well here. And then also the chamomile, they are actually ready for some watering, which is because I turned the fan back on. And the Thai basil is, I don't even know if it's really drying out all that much, because this one I only had about 2 plants per cell, and they're doing well. And as you can see, none of these pepper were watered since I came back. and they still have quite a bit of water in them right now. All right, guys, so as you can see, I was gone for a whole 7 days, and I came back to pretty much all my plants are still living. And except for some algae growing on my germination operation there, I think it actually went pretty well. And the algae, as I mentioned, really didn't affect the germination all that much, as the only failure looks like it was actually a seed quality issue, as the seeds were actually a quarter-inch below soil, which means the algae would have never been competing for oxygen in the first place. So overall, I think we did fairly well, and I hope that kind of gave you guys an idea of what I did. If you guys have any other suggestion for what I could have done next time, please leave a comment below on what you think I could have done next time to do it better. And well, keep track of my tomato experiment that I accidentally, started this time. So tune back, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Until then, keep gardening, keep vibing. Let's go.